Hello and welcome to BFM's 89.9 Seconds, a show in which we give you a little glimpse of this week's hottest headlines in just under 90 seconds. I'm Lynn, joined by Audrey and Keith Kam, and this week we're talking about passing your English, we're talking about sedition, as well as what's on your bucket list. Let's get going. In our first story today, earlier this week, Deputy Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin has instated a new policy making English a mandatory pass subject in local public universities, causing a lot of opinions. Audrey?
My question is, Lynn, why even bother? If you're going to address the issue, might as well start in primary school, because you've got issues with teachers there, you've got issues with the level of English there.
But some action is better than no action, right? I mean, it's good that they're trying something at least, even if it is at, tertiary level.
That's the point. They've been trying something over and over again. Didn't they do this with the science and maths, teaching science and maths in English issue years ago? I mean, but
and
at the end of the day,
didn't exactly go very smoothly either. I mean, I think in that transition, a lot of people were confused, including teachers. A lot of parents were confused.
I beg to differ, actually, because when the transition period was over, everybody fell into place and English actually improved in schools.
Ultimately, but I think in the long term, I don't know, if English improved in schools, which is great, then looking at our public universities now, are we seeing that reflected?
Oh no, because the thing is right now, everybody's concerned that the national language, Bahasa Malaysia, is being sidelined. And hence, we have all these NGOs coming out.
Yes, and who has to suffer from all this? It's all the graduates and of course all the students. Bear in mind, we are still waiting for the mandatory pass in English, SPM, to be established first. That's supposed to happen in 2016. So why bother with instating a mandatory pass in public universities when you haven't even addressed the issues back in school?
There's that, and there's also the idea of proficiency, right? Because all this is just supposed to be geared up towards you being able to use English once you graduate. And I don't know if this is really going to help.
Is it going to be mandatory pass in oral English? Or?
In our second story, continuing what has been a very bad year for our national carrier, they have gotten in the headlines again asking awkward questions. Keith?
Now, do you know what a bucket list is? Well, apparently Malaysia Airlines doesn't know, and probably that's due to the level of English, I guess. Well, it's basically a list of adventures you want to embark on before you die, and that's what Malaysia Airlines came up with as a campaign.
I know, but it was in Australia and New Zealand, right? That's where they rolled it out.
That's the oddest thing, because Australia and New Zealand, what language do they speak?
Mostly English, mostly fairly well.
But maybe this was put in place before MH370 and MH17. Maybe this was put in place last year.
But is that, I mean, that's still not okay, I don't think. I mean, just because you have a communication plan doesn't mean you need to commit to it. I'm sure that MAS had a fiscal plan that they were going to commit to this year that they now cannot anymore.
But the thing is, if you have a certain marketing plan that you've planned to roll out throughout the year, I'm sure there are human beings along the way who would think, this is not right.
This seems a little odd. This seems a little off topic.
Or at least their crisis management team should have seen to this.
It's worth asking, I suppose, whether or not we would still find this as problematic without the tragedies. I don't know.
I don't think it would have affected me if anything like this happened before MH370 or MH17.
No, but the thing is, with a bucket list, you always associate it with death. And chances are what happened to MH370 resulted in death, and we know MH17 resulted in death.
And I think in general, it's maybe not such a good idea for a plane company to associate themselves with so much death and destruction. Our third story of the week is related to the rash of recent sedition charges that we've seen levelled against multiple politicians as well as academics and journalists most recently. And I just want to say this, I think that depending on who's reading the Sedition Act at any given point in time, so many people here at PFM could have been charged several times over. And that is the point. Who reads the Act? Why is it so vague? Why is it so arbitrary? I mean, it's vague on purpose, I feel.
All right, the thing with the Sedition Act is that I think it is a good law in this country, which is multiracial, multi-religious. But the
and
point
prone to
is,
sensitivity.
And prone to sensitivity. But the thing is, with this act is that is the government, the ruling government, using it as a weapon? Because if you want to impose the Sedition Act, it should be equal across the board and not just on opposition leaders and journalists and academics. But there are so many other NGOs out there who have said far worse things about the other communities in this country.
And also, how many BM reps have actually been charged or are being investigated under the Sedition Act? Think about it.
I think it's negligible compared to, what we're currently seeing. And there's that whole idea, right, of freedom of speech. And it's something that we tout a lot, but I'm not sure we're aware of whether or not we have it. I think even our politicians seem to be confused about whether or not it's a real thing.
Well, it is stipulated under Article 10 in the Federal Constitution, but of course, they're being governed by several acts, including the Official Secrets Act and the Sedition Act.
All right, as far as laws are concerned, it's always open to interpretation by humans, and humans are obviously prone to mistakes, right?
No, but humans also change according to the events that shape us, right? I mean, a lot of these laws, like if you look at them, they were created in different times. The Sedition Act is a British act, it was supposed to protect us from protect the Penjajah from us.
Which is why we vote our MPs in so that they can amend laws, right?
And that concludes this week's Maybe Seditious, depending on who's looking at the law, episode of BFM's 89.9 Seconds. If you have any comments for us, please leave them in the box below. And if you'd like more videos like this, subscribe to video.bfm.my. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week.